This video is your Dragon of Icespire Peak DM guide for the Dragon Barrow quest from the D&D Essentials Kit. Hi, Bob here, and welcome to Bob World Builder, the D&D channel where we improve our games together. For Dragon of Icespire Peak gameplay, check the cards and description for a link to my session with my fiancée Grace and two of my longtime friends, Dan and Jerry, who were the original DM and a fellow player in my first D&D campaign. Dragon Barrow is one of the second 3 follow-up quests available on the job board after your party finishes any 2 of the first follow-up quests, and it's balanced for 5th level but appropriate for 4th or 6th, making it a perfect fit between Axholme and the Woodland Manse. Unlike most of the quests where the number of hostile creatures is based on the number of player characters, this adventure has a set number of enemies and traps, meaning it is precariously balanced for 4 to 6 players of 5th level, and bigger or smaller parties and more or fewer magic items can easily shift that balance. Here's the quest prompt that the party receives. The dragon that besets us is not the first to threaten this region. Between here and Neverwinter lies the Barrow mound of a warrior whose magical dragon-slaying sword helped fell a green dragon terrorizing the high road a century ago. Rumor has it the Dragonslayer's sword is buried there too. Retrieve it and let the sword be its own reward. This warrior was Lady Tanamir Alagandar of Neverwinter, and she's buried with the dragon, her fallen compatriots, and several other magic items. The only objective is to retrieve the Dragonslayer's sword to aid in the eventual showdown with Cryovane. No one is in immediate danger, and on the off chance that the party has already defeated the White Dragon, this is merely a grave robbing mission which some of the party members might not be okay with. A guilt-free way to present this quest and inspire the Indiana Jones in your players is to frame it as the retrieval of precious historical artifacts, lest they fall into the hands of the invading orcs, or worse, end up in the dragon's hoard. Travel to the Barrow is straightforward. 2 days, bad weather, and a random ominous centaur. But before we get to that, unless your party enjoys role-playing travel in harsh conditions, I would just shorten the journey to 1 day and describe their arrival in the evening so they can actually see the strange witch lights hovering over the Barrow. Besides hinting about the will-o-wisps, Xanth the Centaur offers to guide your party to a ritual site of the, quote, evil half-orcs in Neverwinter Wood, and subtly encourages the party to kill said half-orcs. Now, I'd like to trust Xanth, but besides defending their forest home from a scheming logger, we haven't actually seen the half-orcs do anything explicitly evil to warrant launching an attack on their holy ground. Basically, I do not think these half-orcs should be treated as villains, and we're going to discuss this further in the Woodland Manse videos where you'll see how my players came to a similar conclusion. Like the Axholme dungeon, entering the Barrow is presented as a challenge to the party, and if they all roll low, they'll never get in, so I recommend letting the party member with the highest passive perception feel a slight draft from the base of the hidden entrance stone. Another way you can assist their entry is to redesign the dungeon to make it more intuitive. For example, if the entrance were at the last stone in the tail, your players would be more likely to deduce its location as well as have a more clear path through the dungeon, from tail to wings to head. Note, if you go with this linear layout, don't forget to swap the sword with the weird undead horse so they'll find the horse right away in the tail and have to work their way to the sword in the head. Which also makes more sense than what's written, where the party is supposed to find the sword resting on a dragon skull in the tail of the Barrow mound. Besides that, it's way more epic if the mound is literally the hollowed out skeleton of the slain dragon and the sword is mounted Legend of Zelda style in the skull room. Even with this more feng shui dungeon design, I like the position and mechanics of the pit traps as is. The easy perception check to notice them makes up for the lack of a dex save, and the average of 9 piercing damage that any creature, no matter their weight, will take for stepping on one, not to mention damage from the will-o-wisps that attack any trapped characters. As written, each wisp only attacks a character who falls into their specific pit trap, So once your party discovers the first pit trap by one of these big glowing orbs, they probably won't fall for this trick again. Therefore, as written, they fight one of these wisps at most. But even all 3 wisps are only a medium difficulty encounter for a 5th level party, so I recommend having all 3 wisps attack when the first pit trap is discovered. Retreating if reduced to 7 hit points as written, and going after different characters, so it's unlikely they'll get to use their Consume Life feature, which can kill an unconscious character as a bonus action. Speaking of traps, the tunnel cave-in is great as is because suffocation in D&D is always a dramatic, time-sensitive situation. But read the room. Both claustrophobia and the fear of being buried alive are fairly common, so if any of your players appear extremely uncomfortable by this threat, just call it off. It's not worth ruining someone's experience with D&D just for a cool trap. The third type of trap in this dungeon is the sarcophagi dust cloud in the false tomb. I like this trap, but rather than damage alone, I suggest throwing in some actual corrosion based on the black pudding from the SRD, destroying non-magical ammunition and permanently weakening other non-magical weapons. With a DC 20 athletics check to open any of these graves, getting a face full of acidic dust on their first try was enough to deter most of my players from checking any other tombs, and they missed out on the other magical items this quest has to offer. Assuming your party does take the Dragonslayer sword, combat will ensue with an invisible stalker, so let's review how invisibility actually works during combat. An invisible creature is unseen, so they attack with advantage, and attacks against them have disadvantage. But unless they also take the hide action, their location is automatically known through means other than sight. If the invisible creature does take the hide action, and their stealth check exceeds an attacking character's passive perception, those characters must either guess where to attack, still with disadvantage, or instead use their action to make a perception check against the hidden target's stealth roll. There's a link in the description to a forum post that neatly summarizes this information. Alternatively, we can take some inspiration from Sly Flourish's gameplay, link below, to make this an unforgettable final confrontation. The moment you lift the sword, dust falls around you, as the entire Barrow begins to shake, and everyone hears a clear, bold voice say, "This is the sword of a true hero. Prove yourself!" And the huge dragon skeleton that forms this dungeon clumsily climbs up from the earth. Roll initiative. The party now stands at the southern edge of a 60-foot radius area of loose soil that is difficult terrain. And this final boss has the stats of a young green dragon with the following changes. It is also an undead type creature, its size is huge, its armor class is only 14, and it has a flying speed of only 20 feet. This should be an epic test, but if your party is weak when the fight begins, consider lowering the dragon's hit points. If you're enjoying the series, please like and share the video, it really helps the channel. Subscribe for more and check out my Dragon Barrow session. Thank you for watching, and keep building.